All right, welcome, friends, foes, folks on the internet. We are gathered here today to talk about World of Warcraft. And not so specifically, but in a slightly more abstract way, not quite like the way that I had planned. I have been putting off making a YouTube video about the War Within expansion for like as long as it's been out now, like a month or two. And that is so specifically because the aesthetics are not what I wish they were. The Dragonflight expansion was, in my opinion, very beautiful, and this expansion has not been so beautiful, which I can touch on throughout the video. But it leads me to think, what do I actually want to talk about if I'm going to make a video on WoW? Okay, come on. You want to talk about WoW too? And that is the people. Of course, that is the reason that I like the game. It's the reason that I stick to the game. And if any sort of thesis could be drawn to this video or to why I want to make a video like this, it would be why gaming has improved my life and like the explicit ways that being a gamer for 2 years now has actually positively improved my life. I can't guarantee that everyone is going to experience these benefits or has experienced these benefits. We all know someone who doesn't take any advice from anybody or care about self-improvement, anything like that. But I personally think that if you are a gamer or you want to get someone, like a girlfriend, a friend, a family member, if you have someone in your life that you want to engage with in video games, but they kind of view it as a lower tier hobby, this could be the video. That's like my premise today. So I am going to start off with a little bit of critique around the season, just from the perspective of someone who is not an avid WoW player. Like, I have not been around for the last 20 years. And that is specifically to say that the content of this season is very story heavy, which is wonderful if you really were engaged with the story or know anything about it. But for someone like me who cares a lot more about the aesthetics and like enjoyability of things like the dungeons, of the different areas on the map, that is somewhat lost to someone that doesn't have all the context. I also think that, another reason I'm making this video is because an expansion release is a very high stress time. If you don't have friends who are going to go through this content with you, if you don't know all the answers or know which website to look up all the answers on, it is kind of like a difficult task to get XP and level up in a way that I don't know if Blizzard just shoots itself in the foot or if they intentionally want people to like buy boosts, which I did. It can just take a long ass time to level up a character, and then you have to learn a very specific way to play the character if you're gonna make any improvements or like be actually competitive in keys or raid. Anyway, not my cup of tea. I also think that the beginning of an expansion is a super volatile time to be playing, period, because so many things change. There are so many buffs, there are so many nerfs. I think that like the gameplay in a raid doesn't inherently change, but like the classes that are going to be the best or the worst are going to change, and it's hard to like buy into something early on not knowing what the product's going to be, a month or two down the line, especially if you only like to play one character. So that's something to consider. My very last thing on the actual content of this expansion, there have been many commentators doing much more in-depth or like generally beneficial content review. I don't enjoy exploring for the sake of exploring. So I will say the thing that could have encouraged me to do that more and did truly encourage me to do that more in Dragonflight was beautiful little nooks and crannies. Everything about this expansion is much more like industrial. You've got underground, you've got spider webs, you've got Vom, you've got, Hollowfall is pretty, and Dornival has like some cute little niches, but just generally, I don't think that the aesthetics of this expansion, even in things like the outfits, they didn't consider like the cute at all. They went like very rugged, earthy. Just think like Minecraft and spiders is kind of like if I had to draw the worst comparison of aesthetics, that's what it would be. So, enough shitting on the actual game at this point. It is still very fun, it is still cool, it's still got some beautiful spots, and truthfully, the raid and the dungeons are all very fun, so I would get into it. So now we have reached the part where I'm actually going to tell you what ways gaming, and specifically PC gaming and specifically World of Warcraft, have improved my life. First is social life. And we'll break this down into two parts. One is like the online social life, and the other is my actual real life social life. So let's start with in-game social life. So I am currently sitting at my desk with a wonderful hot cup of hot cocoa and a cat on my lap. If I were to turn on Discord, I would have a minimum of like 3 to 5 friends right there. That is very cool. I think that something that is taken for granted quite often is the accessibility of friends in a game like this and in a community like this. My guild is wonderful. They are relatively annoying for being a group of 20 odd men and maybe 5 women, but they're very smart. They're interested in the game, if not other games. They all have very unique backgrounds. They're all funny, and they all like me, I think, which is like fun. It's nice to have people to talk to, have mostly positive interactions all the time, know things about your friends, remember things, touch base on things. Like, you're talking nearly every day. You have like some rapport with what's going on at work or what's going on with their family. Something about being so intrinsically intertwined in people's personal lives and like weekly schedules because of Raid is that you know if it was somebody's wedding or somebody's birthday or someone had to go to a funeral, and you can kind of gauge like personal information in the way that somebody shows up online as a way of social etiquette and how to treat people. I think that my ability to work with and empathize with people who I would otherwise not have made friends with in real life is so fun and so valuable. Everybody has a totally different personality and a totally different like identity that they bring to the guild. So for example, I don't really know how to address him. Eric, my partner, and I, Furphy, we just put together a World of Warcraft yearbook for our guild where we collected photos of everybody, like either their real life photo or their in-game character, and we put together a yearbook. We did votes on who would win superlative like awards. We did rating battle stations, like rating your setup. It's so fun. I feel like being kind of a social tack or glue to put on an event, it highlights my job, my interest in event planning and event coordinating, and like our collective creativity and care for community. That's like fun. That's like very cool. And generally, it's a way for me to have a lot of fun with people, like real life people, while being at home in the comfort of my own space. In terms of improving my real life social life, like outside of my home, I think that it's made a big impact in prioritizing time with people. So hear me out, not every gamer is going to do this, but for someone like myself, making time for dinner out with friends, getting drinks after work, working out with my friends, making sure that I go out on the weekends, that is all so much more of a priority for me specifically because I know gaming is kind of like the easy way out, and I will inevitably lose my real life friendships if I don't put the same amount of time or energy into them. Does that make sense? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. You get the positive interactions online in a guild, but it would suck you into the extent that you don't go hang out with your real life friends if you let it. And I think that that's something that I really value seeing, is that the effort I put in to be social with people online, my real life friends deserve the same. It's also just a really nice excuse to get out of your house sometimes. All right, the next thing that gaming has taught me specifically about myself is that it's very important to scale my efforts, or like have a scale of my efforts. For example, World of Warcraft. Now I can't speak for everybody, but for myself, it's a relatively high brain power activity to do, at least at the beginning of an expansion, right? Where you're like learning the new raid, you're learning all the keys, you're learning the areas. I think that it's a very fun thing to like put brain power towards. It's similar to reading. You could pick up a book and read a very heavy book, or you could pick up a really light, fluffy book and enjoy that for a little bit. You could just quest in World of Warcraft. You could decide to just get into Discord and yap and not actually be in the game. You could do low level keys instead of high level keys. All of those things kind of proved to me that scaling my efforts is very important. And like I mentioned with books, it's not that I don't like reading, it's just that I read a very heavy book recently. Maybe same with this YouTube video. It's not that I don't like making them, it's that I had a lot of pressure in my head to make a video that I did not want to make. Life lessons in real time. Now, I think we're on the third thing. The bulk of emotional regulation can be learned in gaming. This is a little woo, it's a little bit like my personal interest, but I do think that it'd be interesting to study like what gamers experience in terms of emotional regulation and like interpersonal skill sets. I'm talking specifically at the beginning of an expansion now. You've got asking questions, problem solving, learning something new, potentially not being good at something, personal accountability, communicating, multitasking, having terrible things happen to you and letting it go. I think that all of those things are definitely things that like real people experience in the real world, but when you're confronted with it with a screen that's 3 feet in front of your face, there are definitely people that lash out. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about like the worst of gamers, but I am thinking about like the way that people underestimate how maybe a game or gaming would lead to some of these skills. I'll touch on 2 for myself. Asking questions, because I have to ask questions with the information that I have present to me, and I have to ask for a very specific thing in a very specific way in order to obtain the information that's going to move me forward. I cannot ask one of my guild members a historical question about WoW and then sit through a 15-minute drudgery of information. My brain just doesn't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Instead, I could say, wow, this is interesting, or I like this, or I don't like this. Do you know why this exists? That puts us in a very different situation. Another example is being at a computer setup with Furphy. If something's not working right, I can't just ask him, like, why isn't this working, right? Because he doesn't actually want to fix all of my problems. He wants me to know what's going on. And so if I say, I have tried X, Y, and Z, and that didn't work, look at my problem, can you help me solve it? I get much better results. And my other very specific example is letting things go. If you know me, you may know that I am not the type of person that loves to just let things go. Not like my primary MO. So in the world of gaming though, you're going to be in a key for 30 minutes. And if everybody does pretty bad, you're going to be in the key for like 40 minutes to an hour. And that could just be a downward spiral of unenjoyable moment. Or you could have an extremely bad pull, or you could wipe the key and then pick yourself up and do it again, but do it right, or do it better, right? Sometimes I find myself not being able to let go of something and watching the tangible downfall of my instance, maybe it's a key, maybe it's a raid, whatever, watching the tangible downfall occur. And for me personally, it has bled into my real life that I am able to let things go a heck of a lot easier because I don't want to reap any negative consequences ever. I feel like that's a pretty universal situation. Okay, and I kind of already touched on it, but the very last way that WoW specifically and gaming and PC gaming has improved my life is that it has improved my relationship. I said in my video last year, for the last 2 years, I've been playing World of Warcraft and generally gaming because Furphy games. And I know that I'm very lucky to have that experience. I personally still can't say that I do it as much as he does or like am as committed as he is, but it has added a thing for us to do together. It's added a whole community for us, right? We have a new set of mutual friends. We use our brains to accomplish a task where we are doing something together, we're communicating the entire time, we are doing something fun, and we always walk away with something to talk about, whether it's the key that just happened, some guild drama, some little experience you had with a pug group. Like there's always something to talk about. And I think that that is something that's pretty underrated. Okay, well, the camera died, Eric came home from work, but here we are. So I will wrap it up quickly with the last thing We've always kind of had a mentality of doing things together since we started our relationship. Playing WoW is really no different. I am so appreciative that we both enjoy doing something together, even if it is at different levels. A lot of the points that I already talked about definitely contribute between the two of us, like better communication skills, better problem solving, asking more direct questions, emotional regulation, being able to say what our effort level is going to be for a day or a task. It's very fun. I think he just came in again. Are you kidding me?
Baby, are you meow, 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 meow?
And this is the way that he ruins our relationship. So this was a little bit different than the video I had originally planned with a commentary on The War Within, but I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something. I hope you can benefit from gaming. You ruined my outro.
Sorry. I wouldn't play with you.
I think it's really fun, okay? That's what matters. My video.